I have a client who isn't paying their invoice for the additions I made to their website, and I couldn't be happier. Let me explain why. Hey there, my design friend. I am Mark Dacote, your host, and this is the podcast that helps you start, run, and grow your design business. Now, today I want to talk to you about client relationships, which is something I've mentioned many times over the years across many episodes of the podcast. But funny enough, I looked back and I only have one episode that's actually dedicated to this topic. And that was episode 20 of the podcast, aptly titled Building Relationships with Your Graphic Design Clients. Now, ask any successful designer, and they will tell you that the relationships that they have with their clients is the foundation of why they are successful. I mean, without relationships, you don't have clients to rely upon. Or should I say, without relationships, you don't have recurring clients to rely upon. And recurring clients are the bread and butter of our industry. If we had to go out and find new clients for each and every project, it would be quite difficult. But if you get a handful of dedicated returning clients, it could sustain your business for a long time. Now, as I said, that's the topic I want to talk about today, but I don't want to go into all the different ways that you can build relationships. I want to focus on one specific aspect. And the reason I want to talk about that is because of something that happened to me over the last couple of weeks. I have a client who I built a website for several years ago. And this client has a podcast and they talk about the Olympic Games. That's their niche. They talk about the Olympics, the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics. They interview athletes and anybody or anything that has to do with the Olympics. Well, a few weeks ago, my client contacted me saying that they wanted to add a fundraising page to their website in order to raise funds so that they can go to Italy for the upcoming Winter Games in person and cover the games live. Now, they've done this in the past, but it's quite the expense, you can imagine. There's the travel, there's the accommodations, and during an Olympic Games, that can be quite pricey. Not to mention there's the tickets to all the different events that they would want to attend. Now, my client had done fundraising before in the past via Kickstarter, but they said that when we were discussing this a few weeks ago, they told me that Kickstarter actually takes a good chunk of the pledges they receive. And they were wondering if there was any way we can do this on the website without having to incur those fees. And I said, sure. You can use the plugin Gravity Forms, which is already on the website. I use it for their contact form and some other things on the website. Oh, and as a sidebar here, if you're not familiar with Gravity Forms, it is a wonderful plugin. I use it on all my client websites and my own personal websites. Been using it for years. It's kind of like the Photoshop of forms plugins. And by that, I mean that it can do so much, and I only use a fraction of what it's capable of. Just like Photoshop can do so many things, and I only use it for a fraction of what it's capable of. Well, that's Gravity Forms. I can't speak enough about it, what it's capable of doing. I absolutely love its functionality and everything. And anyways, if you're interested in learning more about Gravity Forms, it's actually on the resources page on Resourceful Designer. If you're unaware, I recently redid the website, and I've got a beautiful new resources page that you can reach at resourcefuldesigner.com/resources. And Gravity Forms is one of them there. You can look through. Those are all the resources that I personally use, or maybe not all of them, but those are everything on that page is stuff that I use in my business. So you can check that out and see what sort of tools I use. And Gravity Forms is one there. Anyways, I told them that because we had Gravity Forms on their website, it would be really easy to implement it. All we have to do is connect it to Stripe for payments, and we can collect the pledges directly there. And they wouldn't incur any special fees like Kickstarter. They would have to pay the Stripe fees, but that they would have to pay regardless anyways. So I left that with the client. I gave them a quote of what it would be. It would be a simple form, so it wasn't going to be a lot of work. It was going to be a simple form, just make a pledge, and that was it. Well, just last week, my client finally got back to me and said, Mark, we're ready to move ahead. Here's all the information. By the way, we kind of went a little bit overboard with what we want. Here's everything. And we understand that this is probably going to cost us more than what you originally quoted. Just go ahead and do it and bill us appropriately. Now, again, this is a long-time client. I built their website years ago and we've been back and forth. So we've built a relationship already. So I went ahead and I built out the fundraising page and form for their website. Now, the thing is their website has certain branding, certain colors to it. Their main website is yellow, orange, and red as the predominant colors. But because this special fundraising was for the Winter Olympics in Italy, and those Winter Olympics, they kind of have a bluish color to them. That's the color theme. They asked me if it would be possible to make the page blue. So I had to create a special header, special footer, and all that for that one page so that it didn't match the branding of the rest of the color palette of the rest of the website. So I did that, and that took extra time. And then I built the form, and they decided that similar to Kickstarter, where you have different tiers, they said, Mark, we'd like to have different tiers. So if somebody pledged $10, they would get this reward. If they pledged $25, they would get this reward. If they pledged $100, whatever, the different tiers, they would get different rewards. But they also wanted to be able to collect the information that they needed depending on what the different tiers were. Luckily, with Gravity Forms, I'm able to do that with conditional logic. So depending on what tier of pledge they chose, for example, one tier, if they pledge, I forget if it was the $26 it was 26 because it's the 2026 Olympics. So they had one tier at $26. If somebody did that, they would receive a postcard from Italy while the hosts were in the country. Well, if they selected that tier, then I needed to collect the address to where the postcard would go. But if they didn't select that tier, then I didn't need their address. So with conditional logic of the form, I was able to say, if the person selects this tier, then ask them for the information where the postcard should be mailed. And there's different tiers, so there's a lot of conditional logic on the form to collect the different information that would be required depending on what tier the person pledged. So all of that ended up being a lot more complicated than what originally we had talked about. And it took me several hours to build the whole thing out. Now, of course, once I showed it to the client, they had a few little minor adjustments they asked for, and I went in and I did it. And it wasn't until they were happy and they said, okay, Mark, that's perfect. We love it. Go ahead and send us the invoice, that I went ahead and I calculated how much time it had taken and a fair price for them. I created the invoice. And by the way, I use Wave app. If you're curious, that's what I use for my invoicing. I love it. I'm using the free tier. They have a paid one that gives you bookkeeping and all that, but I don't need that services. So I love that it's free, it's stable, and I can do all my billing through there. But anyways, I created the invoice and then I added a discount of 100%. So I charged them the full amount and then I discounted them the full amount. And I wrote a little note next to the discount saying, consider this my contribution towards you getting to Italy. And I sent them the invoice. Now, a short while later, I received a gushing email back from them thanking me for doing this and how touched they were and all of that. So when I opened up this podcast and I said I have a client who isn't paying their invoice, that's because the invoice was for $0. And I couldn't be happier with that because what I just did was solidify a relationship that I've had building for years. Now, I don't know what's going on in this client's mind. Maybe they were thinking of maybe it's time to switch to another web person or whatever. But by doing something like this, it kind of solidifies myself in their mind. Not to mention, it kind of puts me in another level so that should some conversation come up, my name is sure to be passed around. I talked in a recent episode about word of mouth marketing. Well, this is a great way to do word of mouth. Now, this was a good gesture. I mean, the whole reason I was building this page for them was for them to raise money in order to go on a trip. And it was going to cost them money. So they were starting the fundraiser in the hole already. So I thought it would be a nice gesture for me to just create the page and not charge them for it. And I don't need any other recognition beyond what they know I did. And this isn't the first time that I've done something like this. When I used to work at the print shop years and years ago, every year I would design a logo for a local dance company. they would have their year-end recital, and every year their recital would have some sort of theme, Dancing on the Stars or a retro vibe or whatever. They would have a certain theme to go with that year's recital, and I would design an image that would be printed on t-shirts. Now, when I was at the print shop, we didn't print t-shirts or anything like that. So I just designed the image and I would give it to the client. Then she would send it off somewhere to get t-shirts made. And then the print shop would charge her for the design of the image. And it usually worked out to about anywhere $150 to $200 for the image that was designed. Well, when I opened my own studio and left the print shop, that client and I had a really, really good relationship. And she followed me. Instead of going back to the print shop for her artwork needs that didn't necessarily need to be printed there, she would come to me and have stuff done. Well, at the time, I was just getting into what we call print brokering, which I talked about in episode 49 of the podcast, how you can supplement your income through print brokering. And what I mean by print brokering in this case is I had found a supplier that did t-shirts. So when this client came to me and said, Mark, it's that time of year again. Can you design a new t-shirt emblem or logo or whatever you want to call it for the front of our t-shirt and the back? Because she always put the names of the dancers on the back, and I always did something fancy with the way the names would be written. And I mentioned to her that I now have a supplier for t-shirts. And she thought, well, that's a lot easier. I don't have to go through Mark to get the design, and then I have to go to somewhere else to get the t-shirts. I can just do everything through Mark. Not to mention that I was actually less expensive for my t-shirts than her other supplier. So she was very happy to order the t-shirts through me. Now, that first year, whenever it came time, we had a lot of difficulty going back and forth with the design and finalizing it and all that stuff. So it took a lot of time. But once it was final, we ordered the t-shirts. Everything turned out wonderful. And then when it was time to send her the invoice, I sent her the invoice with, here's the cost of all the t-shirts. Here's what you owe me for that. And here's the design. Here's how much it is. And then I had a discount for the amount of the design. And when she asked me, she says, well, what's this discount and all that? I says, well, I'm just grateful that you ordered the t-shirts through me. She was my first client to order t-shirts. And I told her that. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm making a little bit of money on the t-shirts. I says, I want to give you the design for free. And she was so grateful. Now, she was already sharing my name around, but she kept sharing it even more. And I got more clients because of her passing my name around. And that turned into a yearly thing. Every year, I would design the t-shirt for her and not charge her for the design. And I made enough money on the t-shirts that I didn't worry about the design. So I gave her that design for free. And she was grateful for it. I did something similar to another client of mine. There was a golf course that had a special anniversary, and they wanted me to do special things to the website, adding special banners and all that would only be up for a short while, like during the celebration of their major anniversary. And I did the same thing with them. I kept track of my time because for them, I was billing by the hour at the time, because it was just small things to do here and there. So I kept track of all my time that I spent working on their website. And at the end, I sent them an invoice with a 100% discount saying, I'm just congratulations on your big anniversary and all that. Here, this, just a small gesture on my part. And they were grateful. And what happened after that? I got more referrals from people who were members of the golf course, like people that were there that all of a sudden contacting me for work. And it's because they heard through their interaction with the golf course what a great person I was to work with. And it's all about relationships. Now, I'm not telling you to go ahead and start not charging your clients. I'm in a position that a few $100s here or a few $100s there is not a big deal. It's not like every client I have, I don't charge them. The majority of my clients, actually, 99% of my clients, I do charge. But every once in a while, there'll be something that I'll do for free. Heck, I've told you before how my business, Podcast Branding, that's my second design company, I started that business by offering free work. I actually talked about this in episode 328 of the podcast, which was titled Using Pitch Work to Grow Your Design Business. That's exactly what I did. I had friends or people I knew in the podcast space, and I designed free podcast cover art for them. I looked at their cover artwork, which they had designed themselves, and I took it upon myself to design something much better and send it to them. No obligation. They didn't have to use it if they didn't want. And I just said, this is yours to use free of charge. And by doing that, I was, again, building relationships, and those people started spreading the word about my great work. Or when they'd show off the artwork, they were proud to show off their new artwork and say that Mark had done it. Next thing you know, more people were contacting me for artwork, enough so that I decided to start an entire business around this niche. That's what got me started. And it's incredible how you can build trust so easily as something like this. Something that, this is not thousands and thousands of dollars I'm giving away. In most cases, it might be, $100 here or a couple of $100 there. And yes, I could use that money in my pocket, but the ROI of doing this, the return on my investment of giving this for free, has been so big, so great, that it was more than worth it in hindsight of what I did. I have received so many new clients, so many referrals, so many new projects because of these gifts that I supplied to my clients, building relationships. And even some people that I don't have a relationship, I've never worked with them before, that I offered something for free. They continue to be advocates for my business, and they keep sending people my way. Now, let me just explain one thing I do in every case. I always send an invoice when I do this. Because if you just say, here, I'm giving it to you for free, then there's no perceived value. It's a gift. Thank you very much. Oh, we're so grateful and all that. But there's really no perceived value. But if I send an invoice and say, here, this would have cost you $600, but I'm discounting it 100%, so you're not paying me anything, then now they know. It's like, wow, Mark just gave me $600. Now, I didn't actually hand them over $600 in cash or anything like that, but that's the value. So by sending an invoice, the client now knows what you did for them. It solidifies it in their memory. The other thing I always do is I never tell a client up front. That's on me if at the end I decide I want to charge them or not. I never tell a client up front, oh, I'm going to do this. Don't worry, I'll do this for free. There won't be any charge. For one thing, if a client knows it's free, I could almost guarantee they're somehow going to try to take advantage of you. You say, yeah, I can make that change for free, no problem. Oh yeah, well in that case, here's some other small changes. Can you just do them at the same time? And that it's inevitable. So I always, whenever I do this, I do the work. The clients think they're paying for this work. And at the end, I send them an invoice. I don't even tell them I'm doing it for free. I just send them an invoice with a 100% discount on it. And let me tell you, the clients will remember because it's an unexpected surprise. If you tell them in advance you're going to do something for free, they're going to be grateful, but eventually they're going to kind of forget that fact. But if you send them an invoice with a 100% discount on it, and they see that, that is unexpected and it's a big surprise, and they will remember that a lot longer. Now, I do have certain criteria that I do whenever I do this sort of thing. For one, I won't do this if it costs me anything other than time. So I don't mind giving away my time. When my daughter used to play competitive soccer and or football, depending on where you are in the world, and later on when she played competitive volleyball, I did the same thing. When the league learned that I was a graphic designer, they asked me if I'd be willing to design, most of the time it was t-shirts. I would design t-shirts for them. And I said, sure, I'd gladly design t-shirts. And they'd ask me how much. I'd give them a quote and they would agree to the quote. And at the end, I would, again, similar to the dance company, they would order the t-shirts through me. So I would tell them that the design was free of charge, but I would only tell them after the fact. Usually in those cases, I would just say, the only reason I'm doing it free of charge is because my daughter is playing in your league. So later on, when my daughter was no longer, she left soccer in order to go play volleyball. So when she left soccer the following year, when they came back to me and asked me to design a t-shirt again for that year, I told them that, my daughter is no longer playing in your league. I'm going to be charging you for the artwork this year. Is that okay? And they said, yeah, no problem. You've given us the artwork for free for the past 3 or 4 years. We understand. And they had no problems paying for it. But they did remember. They remembered that I had given it to them for free. And again, these relationships, these people would spread the word. And I got work from that. So no cost to me. I would not give the t-shirts for free. This case that I told you about my client with the Olympic website, at one point in the conversation, we were talking about a special plugin that they may need to do. There was one functionality that we weren't able to do with the website. And I said, I can do it, but there's a premium plugin that would cost $75 in order to do that. And they decided that, really it's not that important a functionality. So forget it. We don't need it. But if we had done that, I would have charged them for the plugin and nothing else. I would have sent them an invoice for the cost of the plugin, and then I would have discounted the rest of it. So my criteria again is if it takes my time, that's fine, but no actual expense to me. I'm not going to pay out of my pocket in order to give you something for free, except for my time. And of course, as I said, invoice them for the full amount for them to know. If they don't know what it is, then like how much it cost, there's no way for them to value what it is you're giving to them, and they'll easily forget it. So that's just one small thing that you can do for your clients. Give them something for free, something that's unexpected, and the clients will remember it. They will cherish you for it, and they will spread the word about you. I can tell you that the ROI that I have gained from offering free things to my clients has come back tenfold, if not more. And again, these are not big things. The t-shirts I designed for the volleyball and the soccer, I probably spent less than an hour each on them. So an hour of my time in order to gain multiple clients that were sent my way because the clubs were grateful for what I had done for them, don't you think that's worth it? So why don't you look through your clients and see if there's anything you can help them with? I mean, if your situation allows it, I know sometimes you may be in a situation where every cent counts and you need to collect it, and that's okay. But when you get to a position where, if you miss $100 here or $100 there, it's not that big a deal, then why don't you think about this? Think about offering free things to your client. Again, this is things they asked for. If you just go out and offer them something for free, they may appreciate it, but really it doesn't have the same effect. It's when they ask for something that they expect to pay for, but then get it for free, they'll appreciate so much more. I just had a thought pop into my head. I remember years ago that I was standing in a drive-through at a restaurant. I don't remember what restaurant it was. And when I got to the window, I went to pick up my order and pay for it. And they told me that the car ahead of me had paid for my order. And I was shocked. I didn't know the car had already driven away. I had no idea who it was, but whoever it was had paid for my order. So my order was free. And the feeling I felt for the rest of the day was incredible. That meal, for some reason, tasted better than whatever it would have normally. All because I'd received it for free from the generosity of somebody. And in this case, it was somebody I never met. And just so you know, I've actually done that. Since that time that happened to me, I've done that I think 4 or 5 times since then, where I'll go to the window and I'll pay for mine. And I usually ask, I say, how much is the order for the car behind me? And providing it's not like, $100 order or something like that. If they say, oh, their order is $18 or that, I'll say, well, here, let me pay for that one as well. And I've done that usually around the holiday times or that, but it's a great feeling. And I know when it happened to me, I got a free meal, unexpected. It made me feel good. And that's exactly what you're doing to the clients. My Olympic clients, when they sent me a note thanking me for that, they told me in the note that, they were almost crying. They were in tears over it. And, that just makes me feel good as well. And I know if you did the same thing, you would feel good as well. So, client relationships, that's what it's all about. Without them, we wouldn't have a business. Thanks for listening. I am Mark Decote. Until next time, stay creative. And here's another one of those great intros from Wayne Henderson of MediaVoiceovers.com. And it's too bad I never actually won any of them.
And now, your host, who's been nominated for a podcast award not once, not twice, but 7 times, Mark Decote.